So today's a great day. We were feeling, like Quentin was getting justice, but barely, I guess is the way we can kind of express that. Quentin was a 20-month-old child that lost his life. He was reported missing on October 5th. Dolly, Vision, and I got into town. I got there on November 11th, or excuse me, October 5th. October 5th. Sorry, I'm pushing this along, aren't I? October 5th, we got into town October 11th and October 12th, respectively. And as soon as we pretty much picked up Dolly from the airport, we were having press conference notifications that there was going to be a press conference. And the press conference was going to be about Quentin Simon. We learned at that press conference that Leilani Simon was the only person named as a suspect in this case. Mind you, we went out there with missing person flyers. We knew something was not right. I mean, that's the whole reason why I went out there, is because I already knew before I left here something wasn't right with the daughter's statements. I knew that Billy Joe was out of town, but it wasn't until I got into town that I realized that Leilani was targeting this specific child, that Billy Joe had custody of this child, specifically taking these children away from their mother. So you can imagine my surprise when I get into town and find out why in the world these kids were even in the custody of their mother, when their mother had been, this has been well documented throughout the court records that Leilani was abusive and using drugs in front of these children. And, again, 24 hours, literally 24 hours with our feet on the ground out there in Chatham County, we knew that this was going to be ultimately what the findings would be if they found Quentin Simon. It's kind of crazy, because when we got there, we were not expecting to have a named suspect still sitting outside of the jail cell. And it adds insult to injury. While I thank the law enforcement officers and agencies that worked hard to bring Quentin Simon home, a lot of the nonsense that went on was a direct result of the lack of leadership in that county. We heard later from No Charge Hadley, as I like to call him, even though that they're giving him a nice little, they're blowing smoke up his own little boot behind. Okay, this whole pat on the back. You've done a great job. Yeah, you did a great job. I mean, I'm not disputing the work that your employees did under your leadership. My problem is you don't sit there and have a case built and have enough information to arrest somebody without the body and let them live outside of the house, to drink, party, and have a good time while you look for a body when you had more than enough evidence to arrest her without it. It's unnerving. And to name a suspect that early on and have no interest in arresting that person, that was a horrible, horrible mistake and oversight on the part of Chatham County Police Department. Again, lack of leadership. But we may or may not be able to find him. Don't worry, guys. We're just going to take off the weekends. No big deal. Just the weekends. We're not going to work during the weekends. We're not going to do this. Like, I've never in my life ever seen anything so crazy. We don't take weekends off when a 20-month-old is in a landfill. We just do not do that. We work around the clock. We figure out how to keep the rhythm going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until he's found. But I digress. That's just my personal take on it. Upset that law enforcement chose not to charge her with more. But, again, the DA obviously has picked up this case, has taken it to a grand jury, and now has indicted Leilani on 19 counts. And we're going to go over those counts. I know this story was breaking yesterday. I had all the information well early on when this was breaking. I chose not to go online yesterday. And quite frankly, for those that are in here, I don't know if I'm going to be back on for, the next week or so. I need to take a much needed vacation. As you guys can imagine, I've been working around the clock for the last year. And, it's Christmas time. Many of you guys know that my family has other things going on and I want to get away. So I'm just going to pack up a bag, and I don't even know where I'm going yet. So that's where I'm going. And I may or may not go live while I'm on this vacation, this Christmas vacation, which again, I feel like I've earned. I've worked my tail off. So I probably will be live tomorrow, but after tomorrow, I'm probably done. I'm done for another week. I'm actually considering buying a burner phone and leaving the cell phone here at the house. That's how serious I am about unplugging. I don't want to go on the roads without having some kind of phones in case of an emergency, but I'm actually considering buying a burner phone and leaving the phone and the computer home. So we'll see if I have enough enough willpower to be able to put the electronics down. I probably won't, but we'll see. That interaction at the very beginning of this case is the interaction that made me know that not only was Leilani responsible, but everybody in the house knew. Period. Even Billy Joe. And whether Billy Joe meant for this to happen, whether she actually thought her daughter could kill, one of her grandchildren, that doesn't matter. She knew that this girl was violent to these children. She knew that this girl would do drugs in front of these children. And that was an acceptable risk that Billy Joe was willing to take. And she failed. and her grandson is dead because of that risk she was willing to take. And she's been sitting out here on YouTube talking about things she should not be talking about. She's been out here on YouTube saying she's going to get the boys back, even with the gag order saying that they can't even bring up their names. She's in there in the courtroom being disrespectful to the judge. And don't tell me she's not, because what judge holds a person in contempt for 10 days for having an earpiece in their ear? I'm sorry, that's unheard of. It's unheard of. There was more going on than what's being told to you. I guarantee that. Clearly not listening to the judge. She was clearly being combative with the judge. Well, I don't have to be in that courtroom to know what transpired, because I know how judges act. And judges, you get contempt, you usually get a fee, a fine. They are putting Billy Joe in jail for 10 days. 10 days for a contempt of court. Trust me, this is not just having an earpiece in your ear. This is being told consistently not to do something and you willfully doing what a judge has told you not to do. That's how you wind your ass up in jail for 10 days on a contempt of court charge. Okay, let's be real here. This is not something where she just, oh, I'm sorry, I put an earpiece in my ear and I didn't realize it, and I got this phone past the, in our courts here, we're allowed to have our cell phones in the courtroom. We're allowed to have our cell phones in the courtroom here. So each state's got to be different. And like at Hawkins County, you can't even walk in with an electronic device. You have to keep the electronic device in your car. Here, you can walk in with it. But when the judge tells you you can't record in that courtroom, you bet your ass you better not be recording in that courtroom. That's a good way to get yourself a contempt of court charge, right? And 10 days behind the slammer, right? So I just really believe that there is a lot more going on with that whole thing of Billy Joe being in jail than what people are telling you. Because I'm sorry, of all people, I've been in courtrooms. I've prepared cases. I've prepared for trial for the attorneys that I've worked for. I have done that. And I've worked with a lot of judges and have promoted a lot of judges by way of advocating for them when they're trying to become judges, right? Going and door knocking for these individuals to get them elected to be judges of our county. So I know a lot of judges here in Manatee County, and I can tell you, they don't just throw people in jail for contempt of court. And if it's a minor contempt of court charge, they usually, just blow it off. But, in normal contempt, you get a fine. So you're in contempt, you get a $500,000 fine, you pay your fine, you leave. This is one of those things where there is no fine. She's in jail for 10 days. This is not somebody that just accidentally wore an earbud into court. Judges don't do that. Okay, this is something more significant for a judge to throw somebody in jail for contempt of court, and not only that, but give them zero bond for 10 days. That is a little bit more extensive than, oh, oops, I put an earbud in my ear and forgot about it. Okay, let me just put this in perspective. I don't care what you're hearing. I don't need to be in the court. I don't need to know the specificity of why she got contempt of court charges. I'm just telling you what we're hearing on the internet does not rise to the level of somebody getting contempt charges and being locked away for 10 solid days. Okay, something more happened. Period. Something that the judge found completely appalling happened. Okay, I'm just telling you. So it's either her, talking back to the judge, but not just talking back. People talk back to the judge all the time. Judges get frustrated. I get it. Okay. But that, again, people do it all the time. You don't see them going into the slammer for 10 days for talking back to a judge. She broke a gag order. That is a good way to get yourself in contempt. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if it really is because she violated the gag order, she can thank Cher for that. Our lovely friend Cher, right? The one that likes to see me get beat up and thrown in jail, right? The one that looked like she was going to be changing for the better, but is right back in the same gutter that she pulled herself out of. That person, yeah. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, thank you, Cher, right? We know that however it went down, it was for something to do with social media, because this lady doesn't quite get it. She's too busy smoking her crack pipe to see the bigger picture. All right.